Good evening, Facebook. Skip Bayless coming to you live here from the west side of Los Angeles, Century City, by the very new, upgraded Century City Mall. What they put into it, like $1 billion. It's a madhouse right now on Thanksgiving weekend. We're about a mile from the Fox Studios, where tomorrow I will do Undisputed opposite Shannon Sharp and occasionally Eric Dickerson and a parade of others, Tony Gonzalez. And right now I'm going to spill my early knee-jerk gut feelings on what I witnessed all day today in the National Football League. But as you get settled in, quick cameo from the quote-unquote daughter of me and Ernestine, our only child, our Maltese, who's now a year and a couple of months old. Hazel, internet star. Ooh, hold on. I can't get a hold of her. There. Hi, Hazel. Hi, thank you. Look. Hazel's been a little under the weather. She's bouncing back now. She's turned into a tough girl again, except Ernestine wanted me to show, that she has a bow on her neck, which I don't like. I think it's a little too frou-frou. Can you see her bow? I don't know. Ernestine loves it. I don't. I'm sorry. Ernestine's right here. I wanted a boy, so I tried to turn Hazel into kind of a girl boy. She's a tough one, that Hazel. But she's fun, she's sweet, and she has now had our cameo. Thank you very much, Hazel. Thank you very much, Ernestine. Onward and upward to the National Football League today. Quick thought on the Dallas Cowboys, the dearly forgotten Dallas Cowboys. Before I get to the brawl that they're showing right now on NBC, and I got a lot to say about that. But what a weird year it's been, obviously, for the whole football team. But for Darren McFadden, I thought going in that McFadden, I really thought he's going to be a factor this year. I also thought that maybe somehow they could get the Zeke case delayed through this whole football season. And if anybody out there can still explain to me how a court of law in the United States of America said, no, Ezekiel Elliott, you have to serve 4 games of your 6-game suspension before we can even get you on the docket of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. You're way beyond me. I'm still outraged by that. We talk, seems like every day, about the Colin Kaepernick situation and how Colin and others leading that movement want the social justice system in this country reformed. Wasn't that a glaring example of that? I don't know. I don't know. It sure seemed like it to me, but onward and upward. I thought Darren McFadden would join the running back by committee. That would be Alfred Morris and maybe a little bit of Rod Smith. I'm not impressed with Rod Smith so far. That's just me. And Alfred Morris has looked a little long in the tooth. He doesn't have quite the burst he had in those first 3 years with RG3 in Washington when he had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And yet, Darren McFadden as a long strider, as a breakaway runner, I don't know what happened. It's just weird to me because they were clearly down on him all year. They didn't make him active all year until the Atlanta game. First game without Zeke, and he carried one time. I think it was for -2 yards. Ball game, over. That's it. And today they cut Darren McFadden. So don't say Jerry Jones is playing favorites from the University of Arkansas, where Jerry played. Darren McFadden played. He was a stud there. Had a couple 1,000-yard years, one for Oakland, I'm about to speak about, and one for the Cowboys a couple of years back when they were without Tony Romo, and they still had that offensive line, and he still got his 1,000 yards. And I don't know what happened, but all I can tell you is something was going on, something we're not privy to. I'll be interested to see if anybody speculates overnight exactly what that was, but something went way south with Darren McFadden. Remember, he had the weird accident. Running backs coach said he dropped his phone. Then he said, no, that's not what happened. I just slipped and fell. Pool at a party. It was not a pretty year for Darren McFadden, just as it turned into an even worse year for the Dallas Cowboys. And I must admit, quick early thought on Cowboys-Redskins this Thursday night. I don't love it. I'm always honest with you. Sometimes I'm harsh to a fault, objective, harshly so about my Cowboys. Tough love them. But I don't know. I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan, but I think Kirk Cousins I think he's going to throw a party Thursday night at Jerry World. I'm afraid of it. Unless Sean Lee makes a miracle recovery, can come back and be 1,000% full speed. I just don't love it. The defense is just in shambles right now, and it's really affecting the offense. Dak Prescott's lost some confidence. Des Bryant is a shadow of himself, and I don't love this game against the Redskins. Obviously, they went with Zeke and with Sean Lee to Washington in the rain and driving wind. They toughed it out, mudded it out, but I don't love this one. Also didn't love, I'm going to be honest about this, Raiders-Broncos today. I will admit to you that I didn't tweet about it, I missed the live brawl that was just shortly after kickoff into the Raiders-Broncos game. And the reason I can only watch 2 games at once because I can't sort of compute them. I can't comprehend what's going on in more than 2 at once. I can barely comprehend watching 1 at once. If you watch it correctly, I never watch with anybody. Ernestine doesn't come in. Friends don't come in. I watch by myself so I can focus on every little thing that happens. Every little thing, which is why I'm going to bring it tomorrow on Shannon Sharp. But the point is, I actually wanted to watch a little bit of Jacksonville because at 7-3, I thought they were becoming a story, and I thought they could win at Arizona. And I thought, I really haven't watched them all year, so I'm going to put them on. And now I can't remember what the other game was, but anyway, I didn't have the Broncos game. Oh, I had the Rams and the Saints, and it's right here from Los Angeles, obviously. And I didn't love the Saints' chances. Marshawn Lattimore's been like a Rookie of the Year candidate, if they're defensive Rookie of the Year, but he's been really the best rookie overall, and he has really revitalized and turned around that New Orleans defense. And he couldn't go today, and they're down both their starting corners today, so I didn't love their chances, and they hung in for a while and lost. But I'm watching the start of that game to see how they're going to do, and I just, I'm trying to watch a little bit of Jacksonville, and then I'm watching the trends on Twitter. I don't ever look at anything anybody says to me or at me or any response to me or mentions of me. I just don't care. I take my shots. You can take yours. Fine by me. I don't want to damage my brain by letting them all go in my brain. But the point is, I looked and saw what was trending. I went back and watched all the video clips of it. And the reason I didn't have the game on is my conclusion about what happened in the brawl. I just don't care. Those are 2 shamefully bad football teams that are huge disappointments. Shannon Sharp picked the Broncos to win, obviously, the AFC West. We both had the Raiders as a wild card team. And I don't know, maybe the Raiders can still fight back in this. But Jack Del Rio lost me last week, and I covered Jack all the way back to his days at USC, believe it or not. I covered that team. And I covered Jack when he was early Dallas Cowboy, when they were really bad. Just the first year or 2 that Jack Del Rio was with the Cowboys. And so I know Jack. I respect Jack. He's had a pretty good coaching career, had some big moments in Jacksonville. But he lost me last week when we had both teams scapegoating a coordinator last week. Obviously, the Broncos, their offensive coordinator, Mike McCoy, and another guy covered the Cowboys was Ken Norton Jr., and they scapegoated him, although I can't defend him as much as Mike McCoy because he's had some low moments, and I see a lot of Raiders fans at the 24-hour fitness where I lift weights every week, and they just were so down on Ken Norton Jr. So, again, I just like him personally. I don't think he's a bad coordinator, but he got whacked because something had to be done. Somebody had to be sacrificed. And then in response to that, both Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin said, they both tweeted BS on Twitter. And then they bowed out of practice the next day. They mutinied. They revolted. Really? We did it on Undisputed. Really? They got to be gone for this game. I mean, if they're going to miss practice like that and just absolutely rebel on the head coach and the whole, for that matter, the whole system and the franchise. You just have to say they're gone. You have to say they're out. So Jack Del Rio lost some control of his team, and then two players whose ability I respect, but not their character, have gotten into it before. They obviously got into it last, it was early January, week 17 last year. Talib, he's starting to show some signs of age. He's on the backside of his career. Michael Crabtree, I never loved him at Texas Tech because I didn't love his intangibles, but he's got ability and he's made some big catches. So anyway, obviously they got into it last year when Talib, we've got a lot of street in him, and a lot of that I respect because it makes him who he is as one of the best cornerbacks. There have been years you could make a case he was the best cornerback in football, but he reached out last year, as we all know, and he ripped the chain right off Crabtree's neck, and he basically disrespected him as a man. And that's basically what Talib thinks of Michael Crabtree. He just thinks he's, I can't say the words, but you know the words. He thinks he's not a man. Let's just leave it at that. You know all the other words that we could use there. And I'm sure he's used them to Crabtree's face. And there's been a rampant lack of respect around the league, starting with Richard Sherman for Michael Crabtree. So I said it before the draft, and everybody said, oh, how could you say that about Michael? Well, it's just the way I watched him at Texas Tech. I watched lots of Texas Tech games against these guys a couple times. And I just didn't love him. But he can be slippery, and he has high football IQ. He runs good routes, and he can catch it occasionally, and he'll drop big ones. But big moments, I don't trust him at all. So neither does Talib. So Talib wants to get his goat, and I'm sure there are words spoken before the first snap, if not in warm-ups. And right out of the box, Crabtree's going to say, you have disrespected me as a man. I'm going to show you how a man responds. I'm going to fight for my honor. So he tears right into Talib on an early play, and he blocks him, and he blocks him, and he blocks him, and he turns him to the right, and he blocks him all the way out of bounds. But what was hard to see early on in that block was that Talib once again reached out and ripped his chain off. So actually Crabtree kind of started it, but I don't know what the war of words who started it first, but Talib kind of back to Crabtree started with the overzealous block, like just way over enthusiastic block, which didn't have to keep going on and on and on. But in the middle of it, Talib responded by disrespecting him again. It's kind of a sweet move, actually. But the truth is, the reason I didn't have it on is you realize the Denver Broncos are now 3-8. And the Oakland Raiders are, what are they up to, 5? Or what are they? I'm losing even track of what they are. They're what, 5, up to 5-7? Help me out here. I can't remember. But the point is, they're both becoming also-rans, non-stories, huge disappointments, two of the biggest disappointments of the year. You could say Oakland might be the biggest disappointment of the year. And the irony was in the game, they built up a 21-0 lead, and Paxton Lynch has some weird, ankle injury. I didn't see it. It looked like he cramped up or something. It looked like he just got scared and wanted out of the game. I don't know. And he's just kind of rolling to his right, and all of a sudden he's limping, and he's out, and Trevor Siemian comes in. And, Trevor Siemian isn't very good. He's not the long-term answer, but he's not bad. And all of a sudden he starts doing what Trevor Siemian can do. He sure did it against my Cowboys in that Week 2 game up there, that 42-17 thing up there, that Mile High. This obviously at Oakland, and he brings them all the way back to 21-14, and Derek Carr had to make a play to, threw it to 84, I think. Can't remember at the end, but he had to make one play just to sort of save the game from being another debacle for the Oakland Raiders. Who's 84? That's not Seth Roberts. But anyway, that's it. It took one big play late against a really bad team that has now fallen to 3-8. What are the Raiders? Maybe they're up to 5-6 now. I guess they are. Smacks of Cowboy-esque, huh? There are two big disappointments. I don't know. This year just haunts me. We've lost so many big stars, and then we lost the Cowboys, and we've basically lost the Raiders. I know both have hanging on to 1,000,000,000 shots at getting on some weird late highly unexpected playoff role. But anyway, so then the fight escalates, and I see punches thrown everywhere. I don't know how the NFL is going to fix this one because there are a lot of fines, if not suspensions, going to have to come down. I saw Donald Penn throw a punch. I saw 3 or 4 in the scrum punches thrown. And then I saw, obviously, Crabtree and Talib had to, quote-unquote, sort of take it outside of the scrum, and they cut back across the field. And to Crabtree's credit, I got to give him this, his helmet's off, and when they first engage again, when they get away from the scrum, I don't know how he did this, but Crabtree managed to sneak a left through the face mask, and I think he got Talib. I don't know if he poked him in the eye, I couldn't really tell, but he got him, and it stung Talib for a second. He actually got a shot in through the face mask, and then they're squaring off, and then Crabtree throws a pretty weak right hand because what do you want to do? Like you're trying to look like you're defending yourself, and you throw a big right hand, but do you want to hit him in the face mask or the helmet? Break your hand? It's just craziness. Like Joy Taylor always says on Undisputed, that the helmet is undefeated in a fight. Well, it is. So he kind of pulls his punch after he starts to throw it and then just sort of redirects it out into space because you don't want to actually hit him in the helmet. And so it looked like a lot worse than it was out there, but punches are exchanged, if not connected with. But the point is, they both get ejected. And then, I used to love Marshawn Lynch. Now he's just turned into this sideshow to me for the Raiders. And he had his moments today. It's not bad. By the way, Adrian Peterson is sort of between those two. Who's going to have the comeback, old guy player of the year award between those two. And Adrian Peterson, they pulled off a big win today with Blaine Gabbert at quarterback. And Adrian Peterson had I don't know what the final tally was, but it was around 80 yards on 20 carries, 4 yards a carry. So pretty good game. But Marshawn has his moments, but then he's such a showman. He's always in the middle of something, like the thing with his quote-unquote cousin, Marcus Peters. I don't know what that is all about. I would have been outraged if I'd been a Raider and he'd run out there and tried to defend a Kansas City Chief, but that's just me. So the Raiders got issues going on internally all the time. And then Marshawn, because both guys get suspended, so now Crabtree is going to, he gets to go to the tunnel because it's behind his bench, but Talib has to run all the way across the field and go through the Raiders sideline to get to the tunnel, which is behind the Raiders bench at the old Coliseum. So anyway, then Marshawn grandstands again and runs over to him and escorts him through the Raiders bench just to make sure nothing happens. And Marshawn, to me, is now more about promoting Marshawn than actually winning football games. That's just me. I know he came home to Oakland. I know if you're a Raider fan, it just did your heart good. Heck, it did my heart good, and I'm not even from Oakland, but sold a lot of Oakland merchandise. He's got his own shop that we drove by when we had our shows there in Oakland before the NBA Finals or during the NBA Finals games. And it's been good for his pocketbook and the promotion of his, whatever his TV show is, but I'm not sure it's helped the Raiders all that much. And there's just so much grandstanding. And again, I get this from Raider fans I run into at the gym. They were outraged after, remember when the Raiders beat the Jets in Oakland, and it was a wipeout. I forget, it was 40 to something. And Marshawn does this big look at me dance on the sideline and just does a big solo dance that goes on and on and on. And that was Sunday. Monday, I always go Monday, Wednesday, Friday to the gym. And I see the Raider fans, and they're just they're stunned that Marshawn Lynch would dance about the Jets, because at that point everybody thought the Jets were terrible. And they're better than terrible, and they hung in today with Cam and company. And listen, Josh McCown, I got to tell you, he's pretty good. I know he's an old guy, and you could make a case certainly that Colin Kaepernick would have been better than a whole lot of quarterbacks this year, and you can definitely make that case. But when Shannon Sharp always throws Josh McCown into that long list of his, Kaepernick's better than him and him and him and him and him, every time he brings up Josh McCown, I'm like, I don't know. Josh McCown's just pretty good. Josh McCown replaced Jay Cutler that year in Chicago and outplayed Jay Cutler. when Cutler was having a pretty good year. Got hurt late in the year and just took it up a whole notch. So Marshawn is dancing on the Jets. And at that point, it looked like the Jets were junk. And it's like sophisticated, smart, longtime Raider fans are saying, what are you doing? Save it for the Broncos, who turned out not to be very good, or the Chiefs, who really turned out not to be very good, or the Chargers, who, by the way, turned out to be pretty good. I picked the Chargers before the year. It was my one out on the limb pick, and I went way out on the end of the limb, and I said the Chargers are going to win the AFC West because they're going to have the best defense in the AFC West. Shannon says, nope, it's going to be Denver. And because they're going to have the best veteran quarterback in the West. Obviously, Derek Carr is still a younger quarterback coming of age, and it looked like he would be the best quarterback in the division, if not Alex Smith, even though there's a reason that Patrick Mahomes was drafted fairly high in the first round by Andy Reid, and now Reid is facing a huge dilemma. When do I give up the ghost and go to Patrick Mahomes? So once you do that, you've given up the season. So I don't see how you can do that yet. They're still clinging. They're still hanging on a game ahead of the Chargers and obviously the Raiders too. And yet the Chargers are coming. The Chargers have a defense. They have the best pass rushing football. They have a top 5 wide receiver in Keenan Allen. I'll take him over Crabtree any day. And Casey Hayward out of Vanderbilt University, which, by the way, beat the University of Tennessee. I went to Vanderbilt, but I grew up these guys fan. Oklahoma City, I couldn't help myself because I got born into the tradition. But the Vanderbilt Commodores, who've had a very, very, very disappointing season, except for one early win over Kansas State, then got annihilated and humiliated by Bama. And it went from bad to worse for several weeks through the SEC. But what's left of the shambles of the Tennessee Volunteers at home yesterday got annihilated and humiliated in the fourth quarter by the Vanderbilt Commodores. Way to go, Commodores. But these guys, they might be ranked number 1 in the polls tomorrow night, the latest playoff rankings. They just got to figure out how to beat TCU on Saturday, and it will not be easy for a second time because that coach and that team are really good. That's a top 10 defense in the country, maybe a top 5 defense. And, of course, it was 38 to something near the end of the first half, the first time they played in Norman. That will not happen this time. It will be a battle that will go down to the wire, but I still say that these guys will prevail and they will be in the Final Four. And my early just gut level Final Four, just off the top of my head here, that I did tweet about last night. I still got Clemson. Very impressive yesterday. I think they'll beat Miami. I got Wisconsin because I think Wisconsin is a really good college football team. I've watched them now 4 straight weeks. They are clockwork on offense, and they are textbook on defense. And I think given J.T. Barrett's right knee, I don't know what happened with the cameraman, but even though Haskins looked good, I call him J.T. Haskins, I just don't know. I think Wisconsin's going to get them. I think they'll just outplay them and get even for that debacle. Remember a few years back when it was, I forget what the score was, like, what was it, 52-0 in the Big Ten championship game. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Wisconsin will win it, and they'll be in the Final Four. I'm not saying this is the sexiest Final Four ever. And then to Georgia. I picked Auburn to beat Alabama, but I got to tell you, without any of those 3 running backs, and it looks like all 3 will be hurt. I don't know who will be able to go at all, but Pat Way's almost certainly out. He's been out for a long time. And Carry On out, and the kid who came in turned his ankle. I don't know, maybe he'll be okay. But I just think Georgia will get them this time, so that'll be my Final Four. So back to pro football. Earlier today, simultaneously, Tom Brady and Carson Wentz played. And I'll be the first to admit to you, I don't like the Eagles. I'm sorry, it's funny, but I've just never liked the Philadelphia Eagles. I grew up a Cowboy fan, and I didn't hate Washington nearly as much as I did the Eagles. I didn't hate the Giants nearly as much as I did the Eagles. I just don't like how their arrogance when they win, how they front run, how that city goes like overreacts negatively and positively for them. And all I know is just first half versus first half when it was still a game today, Tom Brady was the MVP against a Miami team that was all over him. He was down 2 offensive linemen, and they were knocking him down right and left. Big shots, big hits on him in the first half. He's 40 years of age, and it was one touchdown pass after another one. After another one, he wound up with 4. One was cheap because it's a little jet sweep, just sort of tip pass. But still, 4 more touchdown passes to raise him to 26 for the year, to only 3 interceptions. He did have 1 wind-blown interception. It was high winds today in Foxborough in the second half. He threw it over the middle. It looked like it got blown sideways into the kid's hands, who then finally got ejected for throwing a punch at Amendola on the ground. Amendola will get under your skin, get on your nerves. And the kid lost it. What's his name? McCain, and he was gone for the punch. But Tom Brady was just, God, he's just sensational. He's playing as great as he ever has at age 40, and he's had so much to overcome this year. That defense is still shaky. It was really shaky early. He's having to pull game after game out of the fire. The one at New Orleans, the one against against Houston when Deshaun was so great. And Carson Wentz is just on that magic carpet ride, man. Everything is coming up roses. It's just perfect. Everything's going perfectly for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it just makes me sick, but it's happening. And Alshon Jeffrey wanted to get even with the team that dumped him, the Bears. They're not very good, and he, as they say, trolled the Bears after the game, wore a jersey, Michael Jordan 23 jersey. I don't know what the message is. Does that mean you're Michael Jordan and they let you go? I don't think so, Alshon. I'm sorry. I don't see that. But that's probably what he thinks, that they let Michael Jordan go, the Michael Jordan of the NFL. Really? That's Philly for you. That's what it'll do to you once they get on this roll. I don't know. I'm watching the Steelers come out now to play what's left of the Packers without Aaron Rodgers. Watch what happens when Tom Brady goes to Pittsburgh on, December 17th. I got Brady. He's 10-2 against the Steelers lifetime, 5-2 there in Pittsburgh. I got Brady. Brady has been the Patriots this year. I got the Patriots to win it all. And you know what? I'm about to just give up and give in to this. I want to see Carson Wentz and Tom Brady on that field in Minneapolis for the Super Bowl. I want to see it because I got Brady. And I believe Carson Wentz would be deer in the headlights in a game of that magnitude, but he's on a roll right now that's going to get him 2 home playoff games to the Super Bowl. 2 games in Philadelphia. I don't know who they're going to end up playing. Who knows? Maybe the Vikings. Who would they get in the first round? I don't know. It's just, it looks like they're going to represent the NFC. I got to give in, give up. I've already made my concession speech, certainly for the division, to the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't like them, but I do respect what they're doing. And now I want them to face Tom Brady and company in the Super Bowl so they can get shut up for the rest of this offseason until my Cowboys rebound next year, and they will be my pick next year because back at full strength with Zeke, with Sean Lee, with a hamstring, if he can get that right, the Cowboys would have won the NFC this year at full strength. And now that you look back, they should have just taken the Zeke punishment right away, but Jerry Jones really thought he and that legal team could beat the system, and I did too. And they beat it for a long, long time. But when all of a sudden you have to take the Zeke punishment at Atlanta to start off with, and then, my God, you've got to deal with the magic carpet ride Eagles, fly, and then you turn right around and have to face what I think is the hottest team in pro football right now, the Chargers of Phillip Rivers with that pass rush, best pass rush in the game, and all of a sudden your pass rush has vanished. God, you believe this? The last 3 games, Cowboys have given up 14 sacks, and they have 1 to their credit. That's just terrible. You're going to get embarrassed, and they have. So I got Tom Brady for MVP, but there's no way he's going to win it because there's just too much Brady hate out there. He's won too much. He doesn't deserve to win again, even though he does deserve to win another MVP. And I can't wait to see Shannon Sharp tomorrow morning to set him straight on this. I love a challenge on Undisputed, and this is going to be a big one for me. He's going to be fly, Eagles fly, doing the arms. I've got to hold the phone so I can't do the arms. It just makes me puke is what it does. But I'm good with it because I got Brady, and he doesn't. So I will see you tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern until noon Eastern on Fox Sports 1. That'll be 6:30 a.m. here in the Pacific time zone. I will be up at 2 a.m. tomorrow to get ready. I'll be on the treadmill after I read all the overnight stories. I'll be on at 2:30 till 3:30 watching the highlights. And I will be at our meeting at 4 a.m. and I will be ready to rock at 6:30 a.m., which is 9:30 Eastern until noon on Fox Sports 1. I will see you then on Undisputed. Thank you, Facebook.